City News starts now.
Abortion rights and anti-abortion groups continue to gather outside the U.S. Supreme Court after today's landmark ruling. With Roe v. Wade overturned, new abortion restrictions are on the way for several states. Lawmakers across the Carolinas are releasing statements on how this decision will impact abortion rights where you live.
Well, GOP officials in South Carolina are believed to be already discussing plans to restrict access during special sessions this summer. But the impact this will have in North Carolina is a little more uncertain. Emma Withrow got a chance to talk with some officials here in the Tar Heel State. And Emma, what did they have to say in response to all this big breaking news today?
So, Brian, the lines are really drawn in the sand on this ruling. The majority of Republicans are celebrating this as one of the greatest victories in decades, and then most Democrats are devastated, and they seem to already be using this decision to energize their base for this next coming election. So most lawmakers on both sides of the aisle released their statements in response to the ruling today. North Carolina's Governor Roy Cooper said, quote, "For 50 years, women have relied on their constitutional right to make their own medical decisions, but today that right's been tragically ripped away." Cooper is currently the only thing standing in the way of Republican lawmakers in the General Assembly hoping to pass more restrictions on abortion. Now, speaking of those Republicans, North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis said in a statement, "I, for one, will continue to advocate for common sense measures that the broad majority of Americans support, like protecting life at a crucial point in development and prohibiting horrendous procedures like partial and pain-capable abortions." Now that it's up to the states, though, to decide on these abortion rights, I caught up with both Democrats and Republicans in North Carolina's General Assembly to see what comes next. Take a listen.
With rape or incest, or if it's definitely pending on the mother's life, then I can see that being an option then. We're also going to have to change our rules and regulations on how we get children adopted. You can't do one of these and not do the other. We've got to make adoption more affordable, more accessible for these babies that are going to be born.
We cannot allow our state to slide backwards on a right as fundamental as a decision about whether you have to have a forced pregnancy or not. I have filed a bill at Senate Bill 888 to codify the protections of Roe and Casey here in North Carolina. It would maintain the status quo so that we don't slide backwards.
Okay, guys, so right now, if Republicans in the General Assembly were to try to pass legislation that was a little too extreme, it would be vetoed by Governor Cooper. The only way they could override Cooper's veto is if they have a supermajority, and they're actually one seat away, at least in the Senate, from having that. So it'll be interesting to see how this coming election season plays out.
Yeah, the political divide just got wider, it seems like, here between Republicans and Democrats. All right, thank you, Emma. President Biden called it a sad day in America, saying the Supreme Court has taken away a constitutional right that is fundamental to so many Americans. The president said the court's ruling has put the health and life of women across the country at risk.
Today, the Supreme Court of the United States expressly took away a constitutional right from the American people that it had already recognized. They didn't limit it, they simply took it away.
Well, from frustration to celebration, House Republicans are now praising the decision from our nation's highest court, calling it a victory for the sanctity of life. Take a listen.
It will save countless innocent children. House Republicans are incredibly grateful for the pro-life movement's tireless efforts for decades, leading to this day to give a voice to the voiceless and protect our most vulnerable, unborn babies.
Now that there is no longer a federal constitutional right to an abortion, many states will move quickly to prohibit abortion. 13 states have trigger laws, and some go into effect immediately. Let's break it down. 3 states, Kentucky, Louisiana, and South Dakota, have what is called trigger bans that go into effect automatically with the Supreme Court's reversal of Roe v. Wade. In Texas, Tennessee, and Idaho, the trigger ban is to go into effect on the 30th day after the Supreme Court ruling. Idaho restrictions would punish offenders with 2 to 5 years in prison. Texas and Tennessee would make offenders a felony. And 7 states will require a process step to implement that trigger ban, and that would be after state officials certify the ruling. And that could happen quickly for this handful of states. Now, to help us break this all down today and on this ruling, let's bring in our chief legal correspondent, Seema Iyer.
Yeah, Seema, looking at what this decision means, this historic ruling ends 50 years of legal abortion in the United States, and now that abortion rights will now be decided by state. This is way more than blue states. It's going to be legal in red states. It's not. Give us more context so that people can understand just how complex this is going to be.
Okay, well, jumping off what Brian just talked about, the trigger laws and the trigger ban, that's 13 states. So that's how they're handled, just as Brian explained. Now, moving forward, you have different issues with different states. For, say, South Carolina, we have this heartbeat bill pending. I know McMaster is pushing this through. This is viability at the detection of a heartbeat. Sidebar, a lot of women don't know they're pregnant until way after that heartbeat has been detected. So he's pushing that through, and that should be at around 6 weeks viability. But then you have the case just in front of the Supreme Court, Dobbs versus Jackson. That viability border was at 15 weeks. So, Alicia, you're right. When you say it gets complex, every single state is different.
Talked about your states, and then also something else that came up in the ruling that came out today. It wasn't just about abortion. According to Justice Clarence Thomas, he called on courts to undo the rulings on same-sex relationships and contraceptions. Quote, "We have a duty to correct that error." What do you make of that going forward?
Okay, well, you emailed me that this morning. I didn't even look at your email because I was a little busy, big guy. But what I did is I found in the decision, so that's Thomas who wrote a concurring opinion. But in Alito's opinion, he specifically says, okay, so just to be clear, not only is Roe versus Wade overturned today, but so is Planned Parenthood versus Casey, the 92 case that affirmed Roe versus Wade. This, and they chip away at both cases for different reasons, and we can talk more about that at 6. But let me be clear. Justice Alito was saying in this opinion that Casey is wrong, and Casey relied on some cases. For instance, Loving versus Virginia. I know you know that case. That involves interracial marriage. They also relied on Griswold versus Connecticut. That's the right to obtain contraception. Do you see where I'm going? And this opinion also moves forward to say the respondents, meaning the people who submitted the briefs, they relied on post-Casey decisions like Obergefell versus Hodges. It's right here, 2015. So if you ask me where this is going, where do you think?
This is a slippery slope.
I think same-sex marriage is in danger.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what they're calling for next.
It's right here. You know, if you're saying Casey's wrong, then everything Casey relied upon is also going to be problematic, shall we say.
And Obergefell was the same-sex marriage in 2015, right?
Right, and they're saying the people who submitted, the people who won today, they relied on, one of the cases they relied upon was Obergefell versus Hodges.
So much to break down, so much more in this conversation. We have you back during our 6 o'clock newscast. What can we expect? Okay,
so one thing I think is really important, and that's more of this talk about viability, okay? Because the thing that people don't understand is that Roe was really decided primarily saying that states cannot regulate pre-viability abortions. And during Roe, that time was 28 weeks. And then it kind of changed with the advent of science and medicine to 23 weeks. But the problem with Casey, and this is also fascinating, Casey looked at Roe, and the justices were divided 3 ways. Only 2 justices didn't want to change Roe. 4 wanted to overrule it entirely, and 3 only upheld Roe based on precedent, stare decisis.
We will continue this conversation. Join us on the news at 6 in about 45 minutes. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Seema. Well, abortions have always been a polarizing topic in the nation, and you don't have to go far to find passionate demonstrations from both sides. Queen City News reporter Derek Dellinger continues our coverage in East Charlotte tonight. And Derek, you are outside of a women's clinic that saw dueling demonstrations moments after this decision came down this morning.
Yes, and the demonstrations out here this afternoon, we should mention, were peaceful. And as you can see, pretty much everyone has left here. CMPD, though, did have to come out here this afternoon just to make sure everything really stayed on the up and up. And for lack of better words, it pretty much did this afternoon. We got some video to show you of basically how this looked like out here. We had demonstrators on both sides of the women's clinic here. On one side, those celebrating the ruling, saying it's a victory that they've been waiting decades for, while others condemned the ruling, saying this essentially means that it's more than an abortion that's at stake. Now, we made made a point of getting both viewpoints today out here, and there were some protesters trying to drown out the others on the other side, but each side made their point known. Here's what they had to say.
They're not going to stop with abortion. It's going to go with a lot of other things. It's a minority group forcing their values on the rest of us.
I believe all humans inside the womb and outside the womb should have equal protection.
Now, there are a lot of passionate opinions on this. In fact, we made a point of reaching out to the county's Republican and Democratic Party about this, too. Part of the reason for this is, well, we wanted to get a sense of their mobilization that they've been seeing, and also what you could be seeing not only out here, but also across the area in the coming days, weeks, and possibly even months as well. That story is coming up at 6. We're live in East Charlotte. Derek Dellinger, Queen City News.
All right, Derek, thank you, and certainly see you at 6. And there is so much more to cover on the ramifications of the Supreme Court's decision today. We're going to bring you more information as that develops. And stay with Queen City News on air and online for the very latest. In a mix of outrage and celebrations at the news of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, how this news could impact regulations in the Carolinas. And bridging the gap, the new rides Concord police are rolling out to get closer to the community.
And most of us are nice and dry on this Friday evening. Checking the weather out there. Just a couple of isolated showers in those higher elevations. I'll check the rain chances as we head into the weekend. The forecast is next.
All right, let's take a live look as we say, hold on. We'll be right back after this break for more local news here in the Carolinas.
Inflation's rise could actually lend some Americans help in their finances. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau plans to crack down on late fees charged by credit card companies. Consumers may be hit with added junk fees as inflation continues to go up for everyone. In 2020, credit card companies collected a total of $12 billion in late fees.
Well, officials with Gas Buddies say gas prices are expected now to drop up to 20 cents by July 4th. But before you get too excited, they add that the relief likely isn't permanent. The national average for a gallon of regular is now down 8 cents from a week ago. In North Carolina, it's at $4.56 for regular, and in South Carolina, it's a dime less at $4.46. One of the 4 largest airlines in the U.S. saw their pilots picketing outside an airport. Around 1,300 off-duty Southwest Airlines pilots protested outside of Dallas's Love Field Airport. Take a look there. This comes as airlines are now facing a shortage of pilots, which has led to understaffing, delays, and cancellations of flights. The union for Southwest's pilots say they're now working on getting a collective bargaining agreement to recruit and retain pilots while also ensuring current pilots get the needed time off.
With the 15th pick in the 2022 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Mark Williams from Duke University.
Queen City still buzzing over the Hornets' newest additions, and tonight those young men are going to be in Charlotte to get better acquainted with their new team and the city. Charlotte Sports Live's Mike Lissette, who was in Charlotte downtown last night, is in the studio to give us a better idea of what to expect from last night's draft picks, Mike, and certainly exciting for these guys.
Yeah, you know, after a whirlwind 24 hours, reality is setting in for 15th overall pick Mark Williams and second rounder Bryce McGowan's. Their dreams have come true. They've been drafted. They're pros. But now it's time to put in the work. And today, the first order of business, meeting the media, holding up those jerseys. Notice the technique from both guys, specifically the Duke big man Williams, holding up the jersey the right way. After the Hornets first drafted another center, Jalen Duren, at 15 out of Memphis, he wasn't sure of where he was going to end up, but things played out perfectly. Charlotte made a trade, and Williams is a happy Hornet.
I'm really excited to be in Charlotte. You know, put a lot of work to get to this point, but you know, it's new work now. So I'm really excited for it. I can't wait.
I'm happy to be here. It's a great organization. I'm ready to work, ready to have fun, ready to compete. Thank y'all for having me.
Allen's certainly the less heralded of the two picks, but he knows the area quite well. The Nebraska product actually grew up in South Carolina. Dad played football at Clemson, while his mom was a star basketball player for Western Carolina. We'll hear more from both tonight and over the weekend on Charlotte Sports Live.
And I'm sure they're excited. They now get to meet Michael Jordan, right? You know, perfect package. Coming up off the Hornets buzz, let's take a live look now over the Spectrum Center from our Hyatt Place uptown camera. You can't really see much from this view here, but I can tell you it's a beautiful day. It's 87 degrees outside. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Tara Lane.
Yeah, still muggy out there, Tara,
yes.
Humidity-wise. How are we looking for the weekend?
Weekend is looking pretty similar, feeling pretty similar. I mean, hot and humid, even a little bit hotter than today. So talking about more low 90s out there. And fortunately, not a great chance of rain. I say fortunately for outside plans, even though we do have a lot of neighborhoods that would certainly like to see some of that rain. But yeah, it looks like most of it's going to hold off for the weekend, like it is right now as we look live from our Gaston County Tower camera there up in the Dallas area. We are looking good. Just a few scattered puffy cumulus clouds overhead, a little bit of a hazy, hot and humid view. And as we look around on radar, the only spots of rain showing up right now are up in the higher elevations. And even there, it's just kind of fizzling out. Just a few leftover sprinkles heading south of Jefferson for you all there in Ashe County. And just south of Pinola, out around the Jonas Ridge area, we've seen just a little bit of rain, and it's much lighter than it was just a bit ago. We have more scattered showers, even a few stronger thunderstorms over the southwestern part of the state, kind of riding around this ridge of high pressure that is building back in for the weekend. So that sinking air mass, and that's going to help squash out any significant rain chances for most of our area. So 89 degrees, that was that high today, or rather, well, the temperature right now, and also near our high temperature today, right around 90, obviously. And yeah, we're feeling the heat. We're feeling more of that humidity with the dew points up into the lower 60s. Not terribly sticky and steamy, though. Relative humidity in the 40% range. We do have some low 90s out there in Wadesboro, right at 90 degrees in Lancaster, up through Concord, mid 80s showing up there in Hickory and Taylorsville. More of the same there, mid to upper 80s down through the upstate, and the cooler 70s in the high country. So doing some backyard grilling for maybe dinner tonight and celebrate kicking off the weekend. Temperatures still hovering in the mid to upper 80s over the next few hours, warm and generally humid, but mostly dry conditions. So that will be the theme throughout the weekend. Now, we do have some rain and storm chances. The best opportunity for seeing some of that rain will be up in the mountains for both days, tomorrow and again on Sunday, but we do get better rain chances for all of us coming with a cold front going into next week. So there we go, 91 for Saturday, 92 for Sunday. A few spotty storms can be ruled out tomorrow, again, primarily in the higher elevations. Same goes for Sunday. Overall, just slim chances of rain. So we check out Futurecast and where most of that green is blossoming. Even here tonight, a couple of showers could redevelop in the higher terrain there. 6:15 tomorrow morning, much like these past couple of the mornings will start out with some clouds and then break out with more sunshine through the afternoon. Again, you can see best chance of those developing storms up in the mountains. That will fade away for tomorrow night. Sunday morning, off to a dry start. And then again, more scattered storms expected for Sunday afternoon. But then here comes that front going into early next week. And you can see this band of scattered showers and storms breaking out and overspreading more of our region as we go through Monday into Tuesday. And that front may not completely clear the area. It may stall just to our south and east and help keep things unsettled even going into the latter part of next week. Heading out to the lake here this weekend, it's looking pretty good. Again, hot, humid, and the water temperature not that much cooler, 83 degrees. Look at that. Last check at Lake Norman, just a bit breezy with that south wind at about 5 to 18 miles an hour. But again, just that low chance that you'll actually have to bring the boat in and watch for any of those spotty showers and storms. Better chance of that, as I said, happening early next week. And that'll come with cooler temperatures too, low to mid 80s there starting Monday.
All right, good looking forecast heading into the weekend too, Tara. Thank you. Are you ready for the first pitch? Queen City News and Charlotte Sports Live are. Head out with us for our stop on our Diamond Days tour every Wednesday in June. We've taken CSL live on the road to our minor league ballparks around the area. Next week, we are wrapping up our series with the Charlotte Knights at Truist Field. Come on out and hang out with us and join us at the game or watch live on CSL.
All right, well, a separate Supreme Court ruling could change how you cast your ballot this fall. What GOP lawmakers could now do to alter the voting process. And a warning about a rise in increasingly deadly drugs. Why they say most addicts don't even know what they're putting in their body.
You're watching Carolina's own Queen City News, the most local news in the Carolinas.
Queen City News recognizes Pride Month. Fortune Feimster is a nationally known actress and comedian, born in Charlotte and raised in Belmont. She gained notoriety as a writer and panelist on the hit show Chelsea Lately. Feimster has also made her mark in the world of acting with several television and movie roles. We are proud to honor and showcase our diverse community.
Well, the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigations right now is overseeing the investigation into a deadly shooting involving a Rowan County deputy. Now, it happened just after 8:30 last night on Rock Spring Road in Salisbury. Fire and EMS units were called in for a report of a car hitting a tree. Emergency officials on the scene say once they arrived, Stephen Johnson confronted them with a knife. The sheriff's office says that Johnson confronted a deputy with a knife as well, and that's when the deputy shot and killed him.
Republican lawmakers in North Carolina are now allowed to intervene in ongoing litigation to defend the state's voter ID laws. U.S. Supreme Court justices made that ruling yesterday in a dispute between the NAACP and the state. The 8-1 ruling doesn't end more than the 3-year dispute over the voter ID law. That decision just means that Republican legislative leaders can intervene in the federal lawsuit to defend it. President Biden says Roe v. Wade is on the ballot this fall, while former Vice President Mike Pence is calling for a national abortion ban. We're going to Washington to see how other lawmakers are reacting to today's Supreme Court decision. And could more have been done to save lives during the early stages of the pandemic? Former Trump officials explain why playing politics may have cost lives.
And most neighborhoods enjoying a dry and hot Friday evening. Of course, a little cooler up there in the mountains at Boone, 76 degrees along King Street. I'll check those rain chances heading into the weekend. Also, some activity happening in the tropics, too. That's ahead in my pinpoint weather forecast.
Sure, mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Will Lewis, mic check.